Welcome to another special book overview episode of our Mandatory Mental Liberation series, produced by Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, founder of Majestic Mind Matters University. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin, for this new episode titled, Nice Racism, How White People Perpetuate Racial Harm by Robin DiAngelo. The necessity of the Mandatory Mental Liberation series at Majestic Mind Matters University lies in our focus on serving our melanin-rich culture communities. By addressing the importance of knowledge of self to produce greater self-awareness and advocating for our mental liberation, but especially for our precious melanin-rich culture children, our messages aims to combat the enduring effects of generational mental enslavement stemming from the historical trauma of the chattel enslavement of the ancestors. Our initiative seeks to empower us to break free from these harmful and unfavorable legacies and cultivate a deep-rooted sense of self-identity and unwavering resilience. In her transformative book, Nice Racism, How White People Perpetuate Racial Harm, Robin DiAngelo uncovers the insidious ways in which white people contribute to and maintain systems of oppression and racism, even when they believe themselves to be well-intentioned and free of racial bias. Robin DiAngelo challenges the notion that racism is limited to overt acts of prejudice or discrimination, and instead argues that it is deeply ingrained in the fabric of society, perpetuated through everyday interactions and behaviors. One of the central concepts in Robin DiAngelo's book is the idea of nice racism, which refers to the subtle, often unconscious ways in which white people uphold systems of privilege and power that benefit them at the expense of melanin-rich culture people. Nice racism manifests itself in various forms, such as denial of racial disparities, minimizing the impact of racism, and deflecting conversations about race. By framing racism as something that only exists in the realm of extreme bigotry, many white people fail to recognize the ways in which they are complicit in perpetuating racial harm. Robin DiAngelo explores how white people often rely on their good intentions and self-perceived moral superiority to absolve themselves of responsibility for addressing racism. This sense of moral righteousness can actually be a barrier to meaningful social change, as it allows white people to avoid confronting their own biases and become defensive when their privilege is challenged. By prioritizing their own comfort and avoiding discomforting conversations about race, white people inadvertently perpetuate racial harm by perpetuating the status quo. Another key concept in Robin DiAngelo's book is the idea of white fragility, which refers to the defensive reactions that white people often have when their racial privilege is called into question. Instead of engaging in self-reflection and acknowledging their complicity in systems of oppression, many white people respond with anger, denial, or avoidance. This fragility serves to protect white people from confronting their own biases and maintaining their sense of superiority, thus perpetuating racial harm. Furthermore, Robin DiAngelo argues that the focus on individual acts of racism often obscures the larger systemic issues at play. While it is important to address overt acts of discrimination and prejudice, it is equally important to recognize the ways in which structural inequalities and power dynamics perpetuate racial oppression. By shifting the focus from individual attitudes to systemic injustices, white people can begin to understand their role in upholding racial hierarchies and work towards dismantling them. In order to combat nice racism and white fragility, Robin DiAngelo advocates for white people to engage in ongoing self-examination, education, and dialogue about race. This includes acknowledging their own biases, listening to the perspectives of our melanin-rich culture people, and actively challenging systems of privilege and oppression. By taking responsibility for their role in perpetuating racial harm, white people can begin to work towards creating a more just and equitable society for us as well. Robin DiAngelo's book, Nice Racism, How White People Perpetuate Racial Harm, offers a compelling analysis of the ways in which white people contribute to and maintain systems of oppression and racism. By uncovering the subtle forms of racism that often go unnoticed and unchallenged, Robin DiAngelo challenges white people to confront their own biases, engage in difficult conversations about race, and work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable world. Ultimately, her book serves as a call to action for white people to take responsibility for their role in perpetuating racial harm and actively work towards dismantling systems of privilege and oppression. Robin DiAngelo, a prominent scholar and author on issues of race and racism, introduces the concept of nice racism to highlight the ways in which white people can perpetuate racism even while appearing friendly, polite, and well-intentioned towards melanin-rich culture people. According to Robin DiAngelo, nice racism operates on a subtle and insidious level, allowing white individuals to uphold racist beliefs and behaviors without acknowledging or confronting their complicity in perpetuating systemic racism. One of the key aspects of nice racism, as Robin DiAngelo explains, is its reliance on microaggressions, subtle, often unintentional actions or comments that communicate racist attitudes towards marginalized groups. These microaggressions can manifest in various forms, such as dismissing the experiences of our melanin-rich culture people, making assumptions based on stereotypes, or using language that reinforces racial hierarchies. While these actions may seem harmless or insignificant on the surface, they contribute to a broader culture of racism and discrimination. In another book she wrote titled White Fragility, Robin DiAngelo discusses the concept of nice racism and how it manifests through microaggressions. Nice racism is a form of racism that is subtle and seemingly unintentional and cloaked in politeness or good intentions. It is a way for seemingly well-meaning people to uphold racist ideologies and behaviors while maintaining a facade of being inclusive and accepting. One of the key aspects of nice racism is its reliance on microaggressions. Microaggressions are small, everyday actions or comments that communicate racist attitudes towards marginalized groups. These can take many forms, such as dismissing the experiences of our melanin-rich culture people, making assumptions based on stereotypes, or using language that reinforces racial hierarchies. While individually these actions may seem harmless or insignificant, when they accumulate they can create a culture of racism and discrimination. One common form of microaggression is when white individuals dismiss or invalidate the experiences of any melanin-rich culture individual. This can include discounting someone's perspective on racism, denying the existence of systemic oppression, or downplaying the impact of discrimination. By minimizing or ignoring the lived experiences of marginalized groups, white individuals perpetuate a narrative that racism is not a significant issue or that it is not their problem to address. This will lead to feelings of frustration, anger, and alienation among our melanin-rich culture people, as our voices are erased and our struggles marginalized. Another form of microaggression is when individuals make assumptions based on stereotypes. This can include assuming that all members of a particular racial group share the same characteristics or abilities, or making judgments about our behavior or intelligence based on our race. These assumptions reinforce harmful stereotypes and perpetuate the idea that we are not individuals with unique experiences and identities, but rather members of a monolithic group defined by our race. Additionally, microaggressions can manifest through the use of language that reinforces racial hierarchies. This can include using terms or phrases that are derogatory or offensive towards us, or using language that subtly reinforces the idea that whiteness is the norm or the standard against which all other races are judged. By using language that is exclusionary or discriminatory, white individuals contribute to a society of racism and reinforce existing power dynamics that privilege white people over us. Overall, microaggressions play a critical role in sustaining systems of oppression and perpetuating racism. While they may seem small or insignificant on their own, when they are allowed to go unchecked, they have a cumulative and harmful impact on our marginalized communities. Recognizing and confronting microaggressions is essential in the fight against racism, as it requires white individuals to examine their own biases and prejudices and to actively work towards dismantling systems of oppression. Microaggressions are a key aspect of nice racism, as they serve to uphold racist ideologies and behaviors under the guise of politeness or good intentions. By dismissing the experiences of our melanin-rich culture people, making assumptions based on stereotypes, and using language that reinforces racial hierarchies, individuals perpetuate an environment of racism and discrimination. It is crucial for white individuals to be mindful of their language and actions, and to challenge microaggressions whenever they occur in order to create a more inclusive and equitable society for us as well. In addition to microaggressions, nice racism is also characterized by ignorance and denial of privilege. White individuals may genuinely believe that they are not racist and that they treat everyone equally, without recognizing the ways in which their privilege and socialization as white people shape their perspectives and interactions with us. This lack of awareness leads to a false sense of moral superiority and a reluctance to engage in self-reflection or critical dialogue about race and racism. By maintaining a facade of niceness and politeness, white people are able to avoid discomfort and confrontation when confronted with their own racist attitudes and behaviors. Robin DiAngelo argues that this avoidance of discomfort is a form of self-protection, allowing individuals to preserve their sense of innocence and avoid challenging their deeply entrenched beliefs about race and privilege. This reluctance to engage in uncomfortable conversations or confront difficult truths about racism ultimately serves to perpetuate the status quo of systemic racism, rather than actively working towards its dismantlement. According to Robin DiAngelo, recognizing and challenging nice racism is crucial in order to truly dismantle racist attitudes and behaviors. This requires white individuals to acknowledge their complicity in perpetuating racism, confront their own biases and privileges, and actively work towards becoming anti-racist allies. This process may be uncomfortable and challenging, but it is essential in order to disrupt the power dynamics that underlie systemic racism and create a more equitable and just society for us as well. Robin DiAngelo's concept of nice racism sheds light on the ways in which white people can perpetuate racism through their words, actions, and beliefs, despite appearing friendly and well-intentioned towards us. By identifying and challenging nice racism, white individuals can begin to dismantle the structures of power and white privilege that uphold systemic racism and work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable society for us as well. It is only through this ongoing process of self-reflection, education, and action that real change can occur and true racial justice can be achieved. Racism is a pervasive issue that continues to plague societies around the world, and in order to combat it effectively, it is imperative for individuals, especially white individuals, to actively engage in anti-racist work. Education is a powerful tool in this fight, and white individuals have a responsibility to educate themselves about racism, privilege, and biases. This self-education can facilitate greater awareness of their own thought processes and behaviors, ultimately leading to meaningful change in their interactions with others. One way in which white individuals can begin their anti-racist journey is by dedicating time to educate themselves. There is a wealth of resources available, such as books, articles, documentaries, and courses that delve into the complex issues of racism and white privilege. By immersing themselves in these materials, white individuals can gain a better understanding of the historical and social contexts that have perpetuated racism and discrimination. This knowledge can serve as a foundation for challenging their own biases and assumptions, ultimately leading to more empathetic and informed perspectives on race relations. Reflection is another crucial aspect of the anti-racist journey for white individuals. Taking the time to reflect on personal biases, attitudes, and beliefs about race can be uncomfortable but necessary. Through introspection, white individuals can begin to unravel the ingrained prejudices that influence their interactions with us. By acknowledging and confronting these biases, white individuals can work towards fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. Engaging in uncomfortable conversations about race, white privilege, and racism is a key step in the anti-racist process. White individuals must actively seek out these conversations, even if they feel uneasy or unsure. By listening to the experiences and perspectives of our melanin-rich culture people, white individuals can broaden their understanding of racism and white privilege and challenge their own preconceived notions. These conversations can be transformative, leading to greater empathy, awareness, and a deeper commitment to dismantling racism. Moreover, white individuals must actively listen to and amplify the voices of our marginalized communities. By elevating the experiences and perspectives of melanin-rich culture people, white individuals can contribute to a more inclusive and diverse dialogue about race. This active listening can help to challenge stereotypes and assumptions and foster greater understanding and empathy across racial divides. Accountability is also essential in the anti-racist journey for white individuals. It is crucial for white individuals to hold themselves accountable for their actions and words, and to acknowledge when they have made mistakes or perpetuated racism. By taking ownership of their behavior and committing to making amends, white individuals can demonstrate a genuine commitment to change and growth. Taking action is the final step in the anti-racist journey for white individuals. Beyond simply educating themselves and reflecting on personal biases, white individuals must actively work towards challenging racism and discrimination in their personal, but especially their professional lives. This can include speaking up against racist comments or behaviors, supporting organizations and initiatives that promote racial equality, and advocating for policy changes that address systemic racism. In conclusion, white individuals have a critical role to play in the fight against racism. By committing to educating themselves, reflecting on personal biases, engaging in uncomfortable conversations, listening to and amplifying marginalized voices, holding themselves accountable, and taking action, white individuals can work towards becoming true allies in the fight for racial equality. The road to anti-racism is long and challenging, but by taking these steps, white individuals can contribute to a more just and equitable society for us as well. I'm your royal narrator, Queen Magical Melanin. We trust that you have expanded your understanding through the insights shared by Baba Jelani Bomani Dembe, founder of Majestic Mind Matters University, in our mandatory mental liberation series message book overview titled, Nice Racism: How White People Perpetuate Racial Harm by Robin DiAngelo. Remember this, it is essential to honor the ancestors. We have a unique connection to the ancestors. They endured many unwarranted struggles, preserved our melanin-rich culture, and passed down invaluable wisdom through many generations. By honoring the ancestors, we pay honorable tribute to our roots and draw great strength and much-needed inspiration from the unwavering resilience and royal legacy that has paved the way for our present and future generations. Ancestral reverence is a powerful way for us to continually uphold our own melanin-rich identity, heritage, and cultural legacy. Here is an ancient Alkebulan proverb to keep in mind. If you think you are too small to make a difference, you have not spent the night with a mosquito. Remember this as well. Whenever you are in the presence of anyone saying, they don't see color, it actually means they don't see you. As a member of our melanin-rich culture, you must strive for knowledge of self, for greater personal awareness. Always treat yourself kindly and seek to live a totally awesome and gloriously fulfilling melanin-rich culture life. So, like, subscribe, and share this very special melanin-rich culture link with everyone that you care about and that really cares about you and all of yours as well, and thank you for listening. Ashe.